Hi, I'm Konstantin Baum, Master of Wine, and today I'm going through one of the most comprehensive wine databases to find wines you like. And I'm not talking about Vivino today, instead I'm talking about one of the first wine rating websites, Cellar Tracker. I'm going to taste a whole range of wines that received high scores on Cellar Tracker and that retail for less than $40 US so that I can find out whether those scores are actually useful. So let's do this. Cellar Tracker was created in March 2003 by Eric Levine, whose name kind of predestines him for a career in the wine business. He was working for Microsoft at that time and he wanted to program a tool that helped him keep track of his wine collection. He soon realized that others would like to use this tool too, and it became a big success. Today it is, according to numbers from Cellar Tracker, used by hundreds of thousands of users, and it contains more than 9 million tasting notes. I found out that there is an official ranking of the people who wrote the most tasting notes, and number one at the moment is Rajon Wine, who wrote close to 48,000 tasting notes since he first signed up in 2004, which is pretty amazing. Users can write tasting notes, indicate whether they like a wine or whether it was flawed, and then rate it according to the 100-point scale. Out of all of the scores, Cellar Tracker then creates an average score that you can use in order to find new interesting wines. I do not use Cellar Tracker much, but I find it quite useful as users tend to be real wine geeks that taste all different kinds of wines. I also prefer scores in the 100-point system as I score that way myself, and I find it easier to compare scores that way. Today I want to find out whether Cellar Tracker scores are useful for you to find new interesting wines. I therefore asked Leon to select some highly scored affordable wines from Cellar Tracker that should be available in most markets so that you can taste along if you want. So without much further ado, let's pop some corks. Quick shout out to all of my subscribers. I want to thank you for all of your support. If you haven't subscribed yet, then please do so. It really helps out the channel and it gets me to taste more wines for you and for me as well, obviously. We're starting off with the Piper Heidsieck Brut non-vintage, which has a Cellar Tracker score of 89 points and retails for $40 US, but it sometimes comes a lot cheaper than that. It is from one of the oldest champagne houses, founded in 1785, and legend has it that Marie Antoinette was a big fan of this champagne. But who knows whether she had good taste. So let's open this. You know what? I haven't savored a bottle of champagne in a while, so it's time. I think I might have broken one of my lights. The cost of living dangerously. The champagne smells of lemon zest, bruised apple, and there are also those brioche almond notes in the background. I think it's more fruit driven rather than dominated by the brioche flavor. So if you don't like brioche, then this is more your kind of wine. But this suggests to me that it might not have been aged on the lees for such a long time. On the palate, it's actually quite rich and concentrated. It doesn't show a lot of acidity, which is for me a little bit of a bummer. I do like quite fresh, vibrant and a little sharp champagnes. But if you like something a little bit more round and a little bit more silky, then this might be for you. In my opinion, this is a very good sparkling wine, but it's not a great champagne. For me, this is an 87-point wine. I think it's good, but at that price point you'll find lots of better champagnes. The next one is the 2019 Kumeu River Estate Chardonnay, which has a Cellar Tracker score of 90.3 and it retails for $30 US. I'm a big fan of New Zealand Chardonnay ever since I worked down there in 2007, and Kumeu River is probably the most well-known winery for this variety in New Zealand. While most famous wineries in New Zealand are in the South Island or in the south of the North Island, Kumeu River is actually up north next to Auckland. The winemaker here is a master of wine, but I won't be influenced by this. And the wines are really, really undervalued in my opinion. They can be great and prices are not that high. The wine was fermented in barrels with indigenous yeasts and it's quite complex and really exciting. It smells a little bit of lemon zest. There's also popcorn notes coming through, a little bit of caramel. There's a little bit more fruit than I would get in Burgundy, for example. So it's a bit more explosive when it comes to fruit, but it's not kitschy. It's not over the top. It's quite balanced. On the palate, the wine is rich and concentrated, but it also has grip and fresh acidity. This is just the estate wine, but it's already really, really balanced. I do like this wine quite a bit. Here I also agree with the Cellar Tracker score. I would score it a little bit higher, 91 points. I think this is just beautiful, a really good wine. And you should not be sleeping on New Zealand Chardonnays. They can be really good. The next wine is the 2019 La Crema Chardonnay from the Sonoma coast in California. It has a Cellar Tracker score of 88.9 and it retails for $20 US. It was founded in 1979 under the name La Crema Viniera, which means the best of the vine. And this wine is from the Sonoma Coast AVA, which covers quite a lot of ground in the area north from San Francisco. And all of those bits and pieces are somehow influenced by the ocean, by the Pacific, and it's therefore one AVA, but it's quite diverse and produces lots of different styles. So let's open it. Yeah. Chardonnay is one of the most important grape varieties in California, and if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I recently did a tasting of different Chardonnays from different areas in California, and it's quite exciting to see how many different styles there are, how many different terroirs there are really. Even though this is from the slightly cooler Sonoma Coast AVA, it is quite a lot more intense and opulent than the previous wine. It smells of peaches, but also of ripe apple. There's quite a lot of oak influence here as well, but it's fairly well balanced because the fruit flavor is so intense. On the palate, this is really rich and intense. It's quite round, quite smooth. The alcohol is actually fairly low with 13.5%, but it feels much more opulent. And the acidity is a bit lower from my perception at least. So this is more of a rich and concentrated Chardonnay style. So this is a very good white wine. I would rate it 88 points. It's not as complex and as balanced as the previous wine, so I wouldn't go above 90 points here. If you want to find out more about the scores that I used, go below this video. I wrote down all of the information that you need to know on the 100-point system. The next wine is the 2020 Kim Crawford Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, which has a Cellar Tracker score of 87 points and it retails for $16 US. Kim Crawford was established in 1996 by Kim Crawford, who is a man, by the way. Many people in the US seem to think that he is a woman, but he's a real man. He built the brand quite quickly into one of the best-selling Sauvignon Blancs in the world, and it was then sold for $50 million US. Ka-ching. The wine is less expressive than most New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs. It smells a little bit of green apple, grassy. There's also a little bit of passion fruit there. On the palate, it's quite fresh, but it feels a little bit diluted. So it doesn't really have a lot of body and concentration. And yeah, that's not necessarily great. I would rate this wine 85 points. So it's a good to very good Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. But I think at this price point, you might actually find some more interesting wines. And I just think it lacks a little bit of concentration. I want a little bit more punch from my New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and this doesn't pack the full punch. The next wine is the 2020 Miraval Rosé, which has a Cellar Tracker score of 88.4 and it retails for $22 US. Everyone knows this wine because it was owned by Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. Now it's just owned by Brad Pitt, and Angelina Jolie sold her stake in the company to another company, and apparently there's now a legal battle over this sale, but I don't really want to get into all of the gossip. I want to stick to the wine. Let's taste this. This wine became a big success, not just because of the owners of the winery, but also because they got the Perrin family involved in this project, which is a famous wine family from the south of France. It owns Château Beaucastel and does many different projects in the wine world, and they really know how to make wine. And that helped Angelina and Brad, because I don't think they knew anything about wine. The wine has this pale salmon color, which is quite typical for rosés from the Provence. It smells of strawberries, a little bit of raspberries. It's quite fruit driven. There's also a little bit of herbaceousness coming through. On the palate, it's actually quite rich and concentrated. The acidity is a bit lower than I would like it to be. And yeah, it's quite a impressive, a little bit more full-bodied rosé wine. In my opinion, this is a very good rosé, but is it worth $22 US? That's the bigger question for me. I would rate this 86 points, And at that score, you can find some really good rosés that retail for $10 or $15 at least. So you definitely pay a premium for the name of the owners or former owners. Yeah, but it's good. It's a good wine. There's nothing bad about it. It's just not as good as the price might suggest. The next wine is the 2012 La Rioja Alta Vina Ardanza Reserva. It has a Cellar Tracker score of 91 points and it retails for $36. The winery has a long history. It was founded in 1890 by 5 families, and their most famous brand, Vina Ardanza, was registered in 1942. Rioja Alta is also the name of one of the 3 subregions of Rioja, which is known for high quality and high altitude vineyards. I'm quite a big fan of La Rioja Alta. The wines tend to be really good and really affordable. Think about the cost of inventory. I mean, this wine is from 2012, it's available now, and it's still fairly affordable. I think no other country in the world can do it like Spain does, and especially Rioja has really great aged wines at fairly affordable prices. But this is really good. For me, this is the prototype of a great Rioja. It is garnet in color, showing some age there. It smells of cherries, of cocoa, of chocolate, and also slightly elevated, so there are some high-pitched notes coming through. On the palate, it's quite rich and velvety, but the tannins are grippy and structured, and there's great freshness at the end. This is not just powerful, it's really well balanced. A beautiful wine. In my opinion, the Cellar Tracker score is quite a bit too low here. 91 points might seem like a lot, but I actually think this is a 95-point wine. This is brilliant quality, really complex. It's aged obviously, but it's not old at all, and I think this is a really great wine at a really good price. Mamma mia. Did I say that this is beautiful? Next up is the 2016 Château Cantemerle, which has a Cellar Tracker score of 91 points and it retails for $40. And I have a personal relationship with this winery because I think it was the first Bordeaux I ever bought. And believe it or not, I bought it at Aldi for 20 euros, I think, at the time. Château Cantemerle was for a long time an underperformer, but today they're producing really good wines at fairly affordable prices. Interestingly, this estate was involved in one of the biggest scandals of the 1855 classification. It is today a 5e cru classé, but back then it wasn't included in the original classification and it was later added in a different handwriting. That was because the brokers who made the classification didn't have information on the prices for this wine, and it was only added as a 5e cru classé when the owner, Caroline de Villeneuve-Durfour, showed up and literally showed them the receipts. 2016 was a very good vintage in Bordeaux, so I'm expecting a really good wine. Let's see. It's a bit difficult for the Cantemerle to follow the Vina Ardanza because this is quite juicy, quite fruit driven. It's much fresher and more vibrant, even though it's not that much younger than the 2012 Rioja. It smells of blackberries and cherries. There's a little bit of grilled bread character coming through as well. On the palate, it's actually quite juicy. The tannins are fairly mellow and it's not the most concentrated wine, so it lacks maybe a little bit of body and concentration, but it has good freshness and vibrancy. I don't see this aging terribly well, so I don't think it will age for decades and decades as some Bordeaux do. I would rate this 90 points. It is a pretty good Bordeaux, but it's quite difficult to get great Bordeaux, great classified Bordeaux in particular, at this price point. The last one of the tasting is the 2018 Fontodi Chianti Classico, which has a Cellar Tracker score of 89 points and it retails for $40. Blop. Fontodi belongs to the Manetti family since 1968 and it is, with 70 hectares under vines, a pretty big estate, but it's completely certified organic. This is a Sangiovese and it was also aged in barriques, but you don't really get a lot of barrique flavor coming through. It smells of ripe cherries. There's also a little bit of licorice coming through, a little bit of spicy notes as well. On the palate, it's really fresh and vibrant. I like that about Sangiovese. It brings lots of acidity, but you also have some grippy tannins there. There's a solid mid palate. So this is quite a good Chianti Classico, quite classic. Chianti Classico, classic, get it. I would rate this wine 90 points. I think it's a bit underrated on Cellar Tracker, but at this price point, I would find some really amazing Chianti Classicos as well. So I think the price quality ratio is not quite there. So are Cellar Tracker scores to be trusted? I think yes. I mean, I was pretty close in most cases. The scores are obviously averaged out, so you lose a little bit of the lows and a little bit of the highs, which is not always ideal, but I think overall the scores are to be trusted. And I think that's maybe because quite a lot of people on the platform are really into wine, so they might have a similar way of tasting as I do. My favorites, clearly the Kumeu River Chardonnay and the Vina Ardanza, both amazing wines and both really good at their price points. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, then please like it down here, subscribe to my channel. And my question of the day is, what do you think about Cellar Tracker? Do you not use it? Do you use it? What is your handle? Please comment down below. I hope I see you guys again soon. Until then, man, I got so much good wine open, so I'm going to stay thirsty and you stay thirsty too, okay? Bye.